Hello and welcome to my Cannibal Corpse album ranking. The covers are presented today by a duo called Tempt Torment, whom I first met on a concert by Bad Influence where they performed on stage. You'll find a link to their Instagram below in the description.
Over 20 years ago, this book was written by a psychologist from Switzerland entitled Verteufelter Heavy Metal, probably the most detailed report available about heavy metal bands getting in conflict with censorship. There's a whole chapter about Cannibal Corpse. Anything else would have disappointed them. The author describes how many of the lyrics and artworks were prohibited, certain songs weren't allowed to be played, even a few gigs were cancelled due to legal persecution of the band. The guys in the band are roughly my age, and I suppose we grew up with similar influences. In an interview with Grind Session magazine, Chris Barnes listed some of his favorite movies like The Evil Dead and Gates of Hell. It's easy to imagine that people without this cultural background struggle to see the element of tongue-in-cheek in Cannibal Corpse, the provocative but satirical intention to go over the top as far as possible.
Do your worst!
In another interview in Metal Hammer magazine, Chris said, "It's not everybody's sense of humor, but humor it is." So let's take a look at the works of Cannibal Corpse. I hate having to pick one for the last place in our ranking, as Cannibal Corpse haven't done any bad albums, but there are 3 or 4 I like less than the rest, and Red Before Black is one of them. It has a couple of cool songs like Shedding My Human Skin and Scavenger Consuming Death, yet the best thing about the album is the production. Guitars sound killer here, courtesy of Eric Rutan. I like Priests of Sodom and the more thrashing Shatter Their Bones, but the album is altogether one of the less essential. Playing live was a different story. Cannibal Corpse put out a tour report on DVD entitled Global Evisceration, which is a great documentary of the band members behind the scenes. They are not as different from other bands on the road as one might imagine, and no babies were butchered while the camera was running. My favorite tracks here are the fast banger Hatchet to the Head and the morbid When Death Replaces Life, but the album was a slight disappointment after some great predecessors. Alex said, according to Death Forever magazine, that the production on Gore Obsessed hadn't balanced the guitar so well, and this was his least favorite album. Anyhow, I caught the band on tour for Gore Obsessed 2003 with Marduk and Malevolent Creation, which left nothing to be desired. My favorite tracks are the fast Headlong into Carnage, Bloodstained Cement, and Kill or Become, which has the line "Fire up the chainsaw" in the lyrics, and then Rob Barrett's guitar underlines that so perfectly with a chainsaw sound. This is an example for the sense of humor in Cannibal Corpse, which isn't so easy to detect.
So you're ready to do some fucking slamming? You're ready to bang your goddamn fucking heads down here? You better be, because we have a lot more songs to fucking play. And I mean a lot, trust me. Are you ready? Alright, are you fucking ready? Come on, make it fucking up there. Scourge!
In 2014, the band played a headline tour for the album. I saw them at a venue called Klopsen, which had good sound and also good view for everyone due to steps in the back. But unfortunately, that club didn't last long and closed its doors in 2017. Morbid Angel played there, Pentagram Metal Church. So support your local venues, you don't know how long they'll survive. The latest full-length album. It's not like I spent a sleepless night in front of a record store to get it. Chaos Horrific gives you a feeling of a band going through their usual routine. Still, I like it. Except for the bulldozer entitled Scourge of Iron, I thought the A-side is a bit monotonous, but on the B-side there is a lot more variety with songs like Followed Home Then Killed, Rabid, or The Driving Energy of Crucifier Avenged. Altogether okay, but not going to the upper half of the list. Make Them Suffer became a live favorite. A video was also shot for Death Walking Terror, a song which I think is not so special. The slow and creepy Infinite Misery is an unusual way to end this LP. Kill is altogether a good release that belongs in the middle of this ranking. One little footnote, after Kill, Cannibal Corpse celebrated their 20th anniversary with the DVD package Centuries of Torment. For younger fans who got into Cannibal Corpse recently, this is telling you more than any studio album about the past of the band with live recordings from many different tours. Recommended. The fifth album, Vile, started as a train wreck. Songs had been written with Chris Barnes, then he had to leave the band, new lyrics had to be written, and the songs tweaked around to suit his successor. The reactions of the press and the fans when George Fisher replaced Barnes, the popular face of the band, were initially between skeptical and negative. In an interview with Hellchild magazine, even Alex Webster said, Cannibal Corpse might be taking one step down now, back to the underground. The decent success of Vile and the following gallery of Suicide would prevent that, fortunately. If you listen to the LP today, it's not spectacular, but a good mixture. After the initial attack of Devoured by Vermin, you also get songs which take a breath at least, like Bloodlands. The instrumental Relentless Beating is a good example of the crazy breaks the band is really good at. Today I like Vile more than I did back then. After the debut, Cannibal Corpse tried to take it to further extremes, faster guitar shredding, much deeper vocal growls, but that led to less variation than its predecessor had shown. Technically, Butchered at Birth was a big step up from the debut. The blast beat drumming sounds improved, more precise and organized. Scott Burns' production also makes the rhythm section sound tighter now. But I feel the songs of the first album were more interesting. Butchered at Birth is still an impressive LP, but slightly overrated maybe due to the controversy about its cover, making it the most prohibited LP of the band. The COVID album, so to speak, where band members recorded their tracks alone at home. This recording process didn't take away any aggression, but it's one of the more technical albums, more guitar-orientated, courtesy of Eric as the producer. My favorite tracks are Surround, Kill, Devour, which has a bit of the old punk groove, Follow the Blood, and Over Torture. After recording 6 albums at the Morris Sound in Florida, for their 7th studio album, Cannibal Corpse decided they wanted to try a different studio and went to El Paso with producer Colin Richardson. It's interesting to hear the development from The Bleeding over Vile and Gallery of Suicide and now Bloodthirst, how they transformed from the old Cannibal Corpse to the new Cannibal Corpse with new singer, new guitarist and new producer. With Bloodthirst, the band reached a new level, unleashing the bloodthirsty ecstasy and decay or condemned to agony are monsters. Of course, on the debut album, Cannibal Corpse hadn't developed their trademarks as far as on later albums yet. Songs like Put Them to Death are thrash rather than death metal. It's still a bit experimental. Paul seems to try in The Undead Will Feast or Scattered Remains, Splattered Brains how fast he can hit those drums. Chris hadn't discovered his full ability for deep growling yet, so he shouted the lyrics also in a kind of thrash manner. But recorded just as the 80s had ended, the LP was incredibly brutal for its time. I think A Skullful of Maggots was the first Cannibal Corpse song I ever heard, and that's also the song that I played live most often from this album, while others have been forgotten a little. Do yourself a favor and rediscover this LP. When I heard Pat O'Brien from Nevermore had joined Cannibal Corpse, I thought he was just going for a really different musical challenge, which would last for an album or two, but actually he became a long-time member for over 20 years. Listen to the guitar solo in Blood-Drenched Execution, for example. There's hardly anything like that on earlier albums, and not to mention the brilliant instrumental from Skin to Liquid. Paul said in an interview with Deftone magazine that the difficulties after the change of singer had been overcome, and while the death metal scene in general started shrinking, he said, Cannibal Corpse were on their way up again. I think this album was important in making them one of the bands who would last to lead the genre. In 1992, after I heard about the band a couple of times, my curiosity made me buy this album, the first Cannibal Corpse output I owned. Songs include the single Hammer Smashed Face, I Come Blood, and Beyond the Cemetery. The production by Scott Burns provides a great drum sound, warm and organic, while the guitars don't stand out so much in the mix. This makes Cannibal Corpse sound more natural and primitive compared to recent albums, and I must say I prefer them with a bit of this archaic barbarian spirit. Great album that totally delivers. The groovy Decency Defied was the video single from the album, also the fast Frantic Disembowelment, and the more thrash-orientated title track were awesome. Nothing Left to Mutilate features one of the funniest texts Cannibal Corpse ever wrote, describing the frustration of an overworked torturer. My favorite LP from the 2000s. Many killer songs on this album, literally, like Stripped, Raped and Strangled or Staring Through the Eyes of the Dead. Chris modified his vocal sound again. After previously pushing for extremely deep growls, on The Bleeding he is much more understandable, so we actually catch his brilliant lines like, She was so beautiful, I had to kill her. One reason why I picked this for my favorite may be that the tour for The Bleeding was the first time I saw Cannibal Corpse live, 1994 with Morbid Angel, Samael and Unleashed. Unfortunately, Chris Barnes became more interested in his new project 6 Feet Under, and this band lineup would come to an end. When I heard the news, I didn't think Cannibal Corpse could work without Chris' unique style of growling and his stage presence, but I was wrong. Actually, all predictions I ever made about Cannibal Corpse were wrong, which either means I'm generally bad at predicting the future, or this is one crazy band where the usual rules don't apply. Maybe both? See you.